Welcome to TPD HiFi. I'm Toby Lewis, and today we're going to be installing the H207 in a 67 to 72 Chevrolet C10. So this will fit in any of the standard cab C or K series pickups. Everything here is what comes in the package. So we've got the Highliner itself, which is a headliner that features 4 overhead speakers, as well as a console to mount either a head unit, CB radio switches, whatever you like. It can either be have no cutout, so you can custom cut out for accessories, or we even offer a pre-cut DIN cutout. So if you want to slide your head unit of choice, it's already cut out. There's a foam liner that goes between the headliner sheet metal and the Highliner to help with any vibrations or noise. Small shock pads for the speakers that go behind the speakers to prevent the speaker magnet from rattling against the metal. A couple for the head unit. Again, it keeps the head unit in there sandwiched in nice, prevents any rattles. 2 sets of MTX Terminator 4 speakers. Incredible sounding speakers, and they go right in your headliner. Hardware pack. I believe it's a 15-foot antenna extension to run your antenna on your pickup if you still have one. Speaker leads to go from the head unit to the speakers. And we're going to go ahead and install this in our 1970 Chevrolet C10 pickup. All right, before we get started, it's always a good idea to have all of our tools and supplies ready to go. So we're going to go over briefly what tools and supplies we're going to need to complete this installation. First thing we're going to need is a drill driver with an 1/8 inch drill bit. And here's the important part. We're going to need a drill stop, an 1/8 inch drill stop to keep us from going through the outer skin of the headliner when we're pre-drilling our mounting holes. So we need that. Good idea to have an extra battery so you're not having to stop and take a break to charge batteries. We're going to need a step bit to drill our hole to run our wires. We're going to need various tapes. Recommend some painter's tape, some kind of duct tape or Gorilla tape, electrical tape. We'll need a wire fish tape or a long zip tie. The long zip tie is the cheapest way to go. If you don't have one, definitely run down and grab a set of these and then just cut the head off. We'll use that to help run our harness. We're also going to need a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, wire crimpers and wire strippers. We're going to need a couple panel tool removal tools. This is a set that I have. This is a panel tool, and this is a smaller one to get in tight spots. We're going to have to remove the dome light. So this one will actually work good for that. So if you have a plastic version, will also work as well. Some kind of pick tool so we can check depth before we do anything that we can't reverse. It's always good to have a Sharpie when we're labeling our speaker wires so we know where they go. And now that we got everything set, let's go ahead and get started on the install. The very first thing that we have to do before we begin our installation is prep the headliner so that we can test fit the Highliner in there and drill all the necessary holes we need to mount it. But first thing we need to do is get the sun visors out of the way. So we'll go ahead and unscrew those. Make sure you put the hardware in a magnetic hardware tray or Ziploc bag and label it. It's always good practice to help not lose the hardware and know exactly what goes where when you go back. So we take the sun visor out. And the sun visor clip. So the installation manual tells you to remove the rearview mirror, and in many cases you do, but on the 67 to 72, you can actually just loosen it and it'll actually help you hold the new Highliner in. So what we'll do is we'll take this cover off. Not all of these trucks have this cover, but if it does, there's one screw in the center. We'll pop that out. And grab the screw so we don't lose that. And now there's 2 screws right here. We're just going to loosen them because the Highliner actually fits just in front of that, and so we can actually use that to kind of hold it in place in the front, cheat a little bit. So we'll just loosen it so that the new headliner will fit under that. but we're not going to take it completely out. So we also have to remove the dome light for a couple reasons. It actually doesn't interfere with the Highliner, but we're going to need access to run our wiring through, and it also helps just get it out of the way so when we're working. So these dome lights in the 67 to 72, there's no screws holding them in. They snap in with a clip right here and right here. This one has already been out. This truck's getting completely rewired, so we're replacing this dome light. But take care not to break these. Just get a hook tool and pry them out here and here, and it'll snap out. And then you have your access hole. A hole to get access to run the radio wires through. They're going to come through here into the dome light cavity, down here, and then up to the front. So we got our pilot hole here, which is about 2 1/4 inches from the dome light opening. And we're going to use a 5/8 snap grommet. And we're going to use a step bit big enough so that it'll drill that hole out without going through the other side, because we only have about 3/4 of an inch of clearance between here and the outer skin of the roof. Before we go too far, we'll do a little test. We've drilled our hole for our grommet. We're going to need to run the wires for the head unit through this hole and through this. There's a rectangular gap that's between the two skins of the roof. And this is pretty challenging, so doing it with the grommet in would be pretty difficult. So before we put the grommet in, we'll put the grommet around the harness, the correct orientation, so it'll snap in there after. And then we're going to attempt to run this through that gap, which might be really, really hard. It might take like 30 minutes just to do this. Tricks to get this harness run. We're going to have a medium-sized zip tie. We're going to cut the head off, and then use some electrical tape and tape the end of our guide wire to the zip tie. You got to go all the way past the wire or else it'll catch. Now we have something that's a little stiffer and we can kind of bend and manipulate. That might help us get it through there. We're going to pull every trick out in the book to get this through, because it's probably one of the hardest trucks to run wires to the headliner. Sometimes you have to put little bends in it to get it to go where you want it to go. It didn't go through the wider gap. I don't think the whole harness will fit that way. It's got to go. There we go. There's actually two gaps, a really thin gap right between that layer and a bigger gap behind it. You got to go through the bigger gap or else this bundle of wires isn't going to make it. So then we'll just pull it through real carefully. Probably wait to snap the grommet in until we're all the way through. It'll just be easier to pull. But as you're pulling it through, when the bundle gets in there, kind of push it to guide it. Don't just yank, so you don't yank the wires out of the tape. Snap that grommet in now, so we're going to do that. Now this harness is going to be for the head unit that goes in the pod right here. So we need to leave enough length to go to that pod and be able to wire the head unit. So I'll probably go to right about there. And give ourselves a little bit extra because there's room in that pod to put some of those wires up in there, or we could even cut a little of that pigtail off. So that'll be good. So to make our life easier when we go to put the Highliner in, let's go ahead and use some duct tape or Gorilla Tape and tape the harness right down the middle. Don't use too many pieces of tape in case we have to move or adjust it later, just to keep it up there out of our way. Because once the Highliner's in, it's going to hold everything in place. So that's good for now. Now let's go ahead and just finish running the harness since we're in here. We'll get some of that. This is where I'm going to tell you right now, the long zip tie comes into place. It's worth going down to Home Depot or Harbor Freight and getting a package of these really long zip ties. Just cut the head off. Some guys will even drill holes in the end and fish a wire through there, but you can just tape it on. This one isn't going to be too difficult. So this is almost like a must. You can also use a fish tape that they use for running home electrical and audio, but sometimes this is actually easier and it's cheaper. So we'll get the end of our harness. And we already have this on, so we might as well use some of that. So we only have to tape one wire on. Tape it on the end that you cut off so that the tapered end goes through a little easier. It's less likely to get caught on obstacles when it goes through. This one, since we're going a lot deeper we're not going to have access to this, I really go above and beyond on how much tape I use, because it's really frustrating when you get in it 3/4 of the way through your goal and then the thing comes off. Ask me how I know. So now we've got to get the wire down here. We know that it's accessible through there because that's where the factory runs the dome light wire. I actually run it through the other side. But this will be good. We run it through this side. We won't have any wires in the way. And we can get our head unit harness up to the front so we can hook up power. So basically just slide it down there. If it gets caught, just kind of work it a little bit. And that was pretty smooth. They don't always go that smooth. And then again, pull the tie as you feed it so you're not yanking this and losing your bundle. And there we are. This will get run up to the front and get connected to the fuse box or the radio plug, but we'll do that after we finish the installation. So for now, we're just gonna take the zip tie off and bundle the wires up in here and come back to that. All right, so now we're gonna test fit the Highliner and drill our mounting holes. So we're going to start by getting it up in there and kind of using that rear view mirror to kind of hold the front in place. And then for the back, we've got hood prop rods, but you can use some friends, a mop handle, broom handle that's been cut down, anything to hold that back up. We're going to just start with one in the middle. and that way we can kind of adjust it around. But what we need to do is temporarily mount the Highliner with the original sun visor screws that we pulled out. These holes are pre-drilled and they're correct as far as the alignment. So if we have all 6 of those holding it in, that's going to help us get our initial alignment. All right, so we got that side. We're going to grab the other 3, go around to the other side. They don't need to be in completely super tight. Main thing is to get all 3 of them in there on each side so it aligns it as good as possible. So now we're aligned that way, but now we need everything to tuck as tight up to the headliner as possible. So I've got 2 prop rods. So I'm going to use that second one, hood prop rods. I'm going to use that second one to hold the corners up. As tight as possible. We'll go around the other side. Take this one down while I kind of hold it up. Get as far as you can to the outside corners. This is where your friends come in handy. If you got some friends that can hold these two corners up in there and tight, that'll help you get everything aligned. So you kind of know it's aligned if this back edge is nice and tight up against the sheet metal. There's no gaps hanging down. The side, there's going to be a gap, so we'll deal with that here in a second. But along the back, you can see it's all pretty tight right up against the sheet metal. And on this one, we pre-drilled our hole to run our head unit harness, but we're going to show that here shortly. We'll go back and revisit that and show you how to do that. So that's all in tight. Now we got to get these nice and tight up in the corners before we drill these holes, because we're going to have to drill 16 holes around the perimeter with our 1/8 inch drill bit and our stop set at 3/8 of an inch so that we don't go too far and we don't even want to put a little ding or a star in the outer sheet metal. So on these, I recommend getting some painter's tape and taping up those sides. We like the green tape the best. It comes off the cleanest and seems to hold the best. So tape it up here without covering up your hole that you're going to drill. Get it as tight as you can. It still might want to bow off a little bit, but you can kind of hold it as you pre-drill these outer ones. These ones are going to be a lot easier because it's tight up against the metal. So go ahead and get your drill loaded with your 1/8 inch bit. You got your drill stop set at about 3/8 of an inch. Hold this up against the sheet metal. Go in until the stop hits, back out so you don't go too far. You actually have about 1/2 inch to 5/8 of give there, so just making sure. We want to be on the safe side and not go too far. Go ahead and repeat that all the way around. And that's it for our mounting holes. Next thing we're going to do is pop this back down and run our wiring harness. See how that holds that? I love that. All right, so we've pre-drilled our holes in the cab. We're getting ready to install the Highliner for hopefully the final time. We've got our foam pad that's going to act as insulation between the Highliner and the outer and the inner roof, but it's a little tricky to get it in there and have it not move around. Might be a little too big in some spots, so we're going to tape it in place with some of our painter's tape, and then we're going to trim some areas that might get in our way. So we'll start with these outer edges. And we don't need to go all the way around. We just need a couple pieces just so it doesn't move around. And we don't want it right by those outer edges where it's going to get potentially caught up in the mounting screws, anything like that. All right, now we're overhanging a little bit and we've got some obstacles. We've got the visor mount, which that looks okay. We got these screws up here. We've also got the hole that our radial wires need to go through. So let's cut some clearances around that stuff and give us room to tape that front edge. So just follow this kind of line up here at the top. We really just want it on the top. We really don't want it on the edges where it's got to fit nice and tight to the sheet metal. I'm going to put a little notch here so we have a spot to run our wires. Do a little curve here, and I think we're good. Finish taping it. I forgot to cut around the speakers. We can probably just kind of take this off and just put it back in place. Both of these left, or you can wire both of these right, or you can go left, right, left, right. Yeah. So I'm gonna do the left, right, okay. And I'm gonna label it that way. So the other way, if a stereo installer is doing this, and let's say they forgot to label them, we have tools. We have speaker testers. We can test and go which ones are which. So this is more for guy in the garage. Yeah. Might not have a speaker tester. This is going to be a little bit easier for them. You know what I mean?
wires going in one little hole.
Yeah. All right, now that we've got all of our speaker wires run, our foam insulation pad in, we're gonna go ahead and get the Highliner back up in here. This time, we've got to do a couple things different that are pretty important. First, we got our wires that are gonna power up our head unit, and we've got to run them through the access hole where we ran the speaker wires and keep them in there. So that's why we want to make that length enough so we can actually get it in there. So once they're through the hole, we can guide them through there. Hook that front into the rearview mirror again. Get the back position. Don't try to go get it perfect the first time. Just get one of these up in the back so that it won't move. Your broomstick or prop hook, prop rod, whatever you got. Get it into place. Then this time, instead of just putting the visor screws in, we're going to go ahead and install the visors. See, this should be this side. So start by getting it close to where you can see the holes that they're lined up. And actually, I think what I'm going to do here is put the hooks in first so that I have something to rest the visor in and help hold it in place. Might be a little bit easier. Just get it in there. Don't necessarily tighten it down. Anything we can do to give ourselves a little extra hand. There we go. Now we can use that to hold. Now that we got the Highliner in place, we got the visors screwed mounted into position. We got the rearview mirror tightened down. We got to go install the 16 mounting screws. Our holes are already drilled. It does help to have a straight pick or some kind of pick tool like this. There's smaller ones you can get at Harbor Freight. I like this one because it's kind of stays in place. But what you can do is put one in to position it and kind of hold it in there, and then go to the next one because you know that one's lined up, so the next one should be pretty close. Just try not to let the pick tool fall on your head. And this is pretty time consuming. There's 16 screws, but you know, you got a headliner that's got a radio in it, 4 speakers, wiring. You definitely don't want this thing to hit a bump and fall on your head. I also recommend using a hand screwdriver rather than a drill driver. I mean, that's your prerogative, but it's just a little safer, especially on this one we custom painted. It's worth it to take a little bit of extra time and not have the drill slip and scratch your paint. Now there's one here in the corner, but I'll probably skip to this one just to make sure everything is continued to be lined up. There we go. So on the perimeter here, we're using the black number 8 by 3/4 inch long pan head screws. 16 of them come in the hardware kit, and we use all of them all the way around. My shoulders are burning. All right, everything's pre-wired. Highliner's in place. Now we got to install all 4 of the speakers. We've got 16 of our number 6 screws that came in our hardware pack. We also have 16 of these number 6 U-clips, and these are important. They need to get installed on the pre-drilled plastic, lining up the hole right with the notch. The reason we do this rather than just screw the screws straight into the ABS plastic is over time, going over bumps, the weight of the speaker that could potentially wear through that plastic. This is going to give it something that's never going to come down. It's going to thread into that nut, and it'll last forever. So don't skip that step. So pop all of these on. It's real easy to line up because it's got a notch in it. You can see where the screw is going to go in. If you don't get it right the first time, do it again. All right, so now that the clips are on, next step, we've got these little 4x4 by 1 inch squares of foam. These are pretty important, especially in these outer speakers. That's sheet metal right there. And the speaker, although it does clear, it's pretty darn close. So if there was any up and down movement, you know, again, over bumps and whatnot, we want. All right, so we got our first speaker installed. Now we're going to our second one here. We take the foam pad, install it behind there. That way, if the speaker is close to the sheet metal in the headliner of the truck, it won't rattle against the headliner. We take our speaker and our speaker grill. We pop this ring out so it has these little clips that hold it in there. And this will cover the screws once we're done. So we pop that out. Line the recessed holes up with the speaker mounting tabs. And if you're like me, if you like everything clocked correctly, like the MTX logo going the same way as the MTX logo on the grill, make sure that's all the way you want it before you put the speaker up in there. And on this one, I put the MTX logo going forward, so we're gonna continue with the same theme. While you're holding it all together, take your red with the wider terminal that goes on the positive. The wide one is always the positive, and on this case with our pigtails, the red is always positive. And then the black one will go on the narrower connector, which is our negative. If they don't go on, you want them on nice and tight, so just wiggle them back and forth till they go on. Push the excess wire up in there. Oh, we forgot to put our clips on. So we got these clips that need to go on the plastic so that you have something really good for the speaker to bite into. If you just put the speakers or the screws into the plastic, over time with the weight of the speaker and gravity, they could wear through the plastic and fall down on your head. So slide those in. It's really easy to see where they align because there's a notch where the screw goes through, and that will align with the pre-drilled hole in the panel. And get it roughly lined up. Start one screw. And if we get one started, the other should be fairly close. And you can kind of see the first one. It's good to go ahead and get that first one pretty tight so that the speaker will hold its position. And the key is getting the second one, because then once two are aligned, everything else should line up. It's in there nice and tight. Line up our screw cover, the clips with the empty holes, and snap it in. All right, number two's in. And to follow what we've been doing on the other ones, we want to line up the MTX logo here, line up the MTX logo here, so everything's the same. And I'm putting the MTX logos forward, so it's going to go this way. Red is positive, it's a wider terminal. Black is negative, it's a narrower terminal. Slide them on the connectors on the speakers. One will only fit, they'll only fit the correct side. And they're really tight, especially the positive. You just kind of have to work it back and forth till it goes on. The beauty of it being a tight terminal is that it won't fall off, which is a good thing. And don't push too hard, because if you do and don't wiggle it back and forth, you could actually bend the terminal or potentially break it off. So the wires are going forward and our logos are going forward. Sometimes it's easier to get all of them started rather than tightening each one down, because it gives you a little more wiggle room to find where it's going to thread into. And then once they're all threaded in, then go ahead and do a circle pattern, tighten them all down. And these nuts hold pretty tight. You can feel right when they stop. You don't need to go past that. All right, one more to go. All right, now that we've got our Highliner installed in our 1970 C10, we've got to put a head unit in it to run our speakers. So we're going to use one of the pods that comes with the Highliner. In the past, the unit came with a pod that you could cut out and put your own accessories in it. We now offer both a unit that's already pre-cut for a DIN unit, so we'll be installing a Sony Bluetooth receiver in our pre-cut DIN unit. And then we also offer the non-cut, so if you're going to not install a head unit, install a switch panel, a CB radio, some other accessory, and keep your head unit in the dash, we've got an option for that as well. So the first thing we need to do is unbox our head unit. We've already pre-done the wiring harness. It's already in the vehicle. So we've got some accessories here, screws. Your head unit may be different. There's a lot of head units out there. We like to use Sony as one of our main brands. So the nice thing about many of these Bluetooth head units is they have a shorter chassis, which gives you a little more room for the wires. These will accept a full-size chassis though, however, if you want to put a CD player in it. This one will be AM/FM Bluetooth, and it's satellite radio ready if you wanted to add satellite radio capability. So first thing we got to do is pop the can or the chassis off. So we'll pull these tabs out, slide it off. It's a little bit tricky. You kind of have to keep one side unhooked while you do the other side. Once we get that out, we're going to mount the can in this. Let's call this the can. It's the DIN can. And these are usually, if you look, they're pretty symmetrical. There's not up and down. If there is an up and down, it'll usually say top. So we're going to slide that in the cutout. Super simple. We're going to bend these tabs in. Try to get the ones that are closest to the edge so that it holds it tight. For example, this one right here is too far in. It's not really going to grab any of the plastic. But this one will grab if we bend that in on the edge of it. So we go around, at least get a couple on the top and the bottom. The bottom's a little tough because there's not a lot of gap, but just do the best you can. And you got a little, you can get on the sides too. There's two on each side, but I only just do one. That way if you do ever have to take it out, it's not too difficult. All right, so once our DIN can is installed and we've bent the tabs in the overhead console, we're gonna go ahead and slide the head unit in. We wanna make sure it's oriented correctly. This goes up into the Highliner, so it's gonna go this way. Our kit comes with two of these, we call them shock pads, but foam pads that can help reduce any vibrations that might be caused by the head unit moving around. One is actually designed to go under the head unit and the other on top. However, with many of these DIN head units, there's not enough room to get one of these under. So we're only gonna use one. We'll go ahead and put it in the top before we load the head unit into the Highliner. So for now, we set one of those aside. We're gonna slide our Sony single DIN in. And just go ahead and slide it in until it snaps. And we're ready to install it into the truck now. All right, now that our Sony DIN head unit is mounted in our overhead console, we're going to go ahead and plug it in and mount it. This part's really, really simple. We've already wired it according to the installation manual for the Sony. And we've got a slot right here and a tab right here at the back of our console. That's going to go into that slot. So we'll go ahead and plug it in. Now we're going to grab one of those foam 5x5 pads, and we're going to put it right on top just to prevent any rattling from going over bumps and whatnot in the truck. Slide it in the slot and straight up. Make sure it's sitting in the slot. Grab our machine screws with the snapping caps. Now in those holes, there's rubber well nuts that are included that have brass machine threads inside. So once you get it started, it will thread into there and it will suck that rubber nut down behind it and keep it tight up against the console, and it won't rattle or have any weird side effects. It's got quite a few threads because it has to suck that down. Same thing over here. Then also included in the kit are a couple, in your case they'll be black, but we painted these to match our custom paint on our Highliner. So there'll be 2 plastic screw caps. Just put them on the clear plastic washer and push up till they snap into place. And there we are, we're good to go. All right, so let's go ahead and turn it on and give it a try. There we go.